Hello there, my name is Redjoy, and today we're going to do something a little bit different from what we normally do on this channel. Today, we're going to talk about my favorite TTRPG, The Savage Soul. The Savage Soul was created in 1980 by Kevin Bogo Bogucki. Bogo basically created the game system based off of a whole bunch of different mechanics and his own unique vision of the world and how it could be integrated with both magic and technology. Not only that, but it's an entire system that is really agnostic to whatever style of gameplay you want it to be. I think it's very similar to what D&D and other game systems are trying to do, but I feel like the Savage Soul just does it a little bit better than other game systems. But first I want to talk about the game system overall. The Savage Soul, or what we call Soul for short, is a classless, skills-based system that allows for you to create a character that can do a whole bunch of different things. And it's not restricted just to being a fighter, or being a thief, or being a rogue, or a mage, or a cleric, or priest, or druid, whatever. You are inspired to take on a whole bunch of different characteristics to what you believe your character would do. And if you think about it, that makes sense for real life too, right? Like, yes, we have job descriptions, like I'm a teacher and Bogo is a lawyer, but it's not necessarily like we are confined to just those things. I, for example, also make silly little videos on YouTube, and Bogo has written books and designed an entire game system. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can integrate real life concepts of kind of multifaceted elements of your individual life into your character. Your character can be really good at melee combat, or can be great at magecraft, or all sorts of magical stuff, but it can also be a fantastic hunter or a fantastic cook, things that will help you to survive in the world of Savage Soul. For example, if you wanted to create a powerful wizard with the body of a bodybuilder, but also the personality and the willpower of a drug-addicted chipmunk, you could do that. If you want to create a blind and mute thief who also invokes the power of his god in order to help him to sneak into situations and also be a phenomenal cook, you can do that. If you want to be a horse and create a character that is a talking horse and has hooves for hands, so he can't use weapons and he can't use anything, but he can turn his body to metal, and when he runs into battle he just screams random insults to people and makes them seem like idiots when they're trying to fight against this giant metal horse that's screaming at them, you can do that, as silly as that seems. So in practical terms of the game, when you create a character, you're going to start them at a certain XP level. The standard is about 500 XP, and you can put those points directly into the stats and to the characteristics that you want. For example, if you want your character to be really strong and really buff, you can put those points into body, which is kind of a combination of constitution and strength. If you want them to be really agile, you might put points into athletics, you might put it into defense, or you might put it into craft to help them build things or to use equipment in the middle of a fight or in really tricky situations. If you want your character to be a wizard or a priest or maybe just a really smooth talking individual, you may put points into intelligence or leadership or even performance if you're going to be a little less than honest. And of course, there's also willpower, and you can even put points directly into those combat skills, right? You can have a really strong character who may also be really better at ranged combat and may put points into that versus putting points into melee combat. Really, when you create the character, the world is your oyster, and you do what you want to do with it. Of course, it's always a good idea to run your character idea by your GM. Since this is a classless system, and it might be difficult for you just to say, well, I want to create a person that goes into the middle of combat, right? You may want to craft how that's going to look. Is it going to be more of a dodge tanky character who avoids getting hit, or is it just going to be a character who takes whatever blows, right? Is it going to be a character who can hit really hard and make sure that they can get out of the way really quickly, or is it going to be the kind of character who doesn't need to hit as hard but can take more blows? You want to play around with that, and the different stats will let you do so. Always run your character by your GM. Yeah, I would say in a standard session 0 setting, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have a phenomenal time in building that character. This leads me to the setting of the Savage Soul. Now, I know I just mentioned that the Savage Soul is kind of lore agnostic, that it doesn't really have a specific one world that it has to be in. You can use it in multiple different worlds, but if you are kind of wanting to explore a new world, and I don't want to give too much away because you should definitely explore it on your own by checking out the website and the rule book, which are both linked below. Imagine it's a little bit in the future. There's kind of a combination of advanced technology, kind of widespread, phenomenal things that mankind has done, but it's also kind of tinged with this kind of fear of this massive plague that's broken out called Yellow Mike. And it's the question as to how do we cure this plague and what's going to happen? Is it going to collapse? Is it going to make society collapse? Is war going to be imminent? And then what happens when war comes imminent? Is that new technology that has emerged? Is that going to impact the world and the very fabric of the universe? Maybe it will. Maybe there's a whole additional thing that breaks out after the world dies. But with all of that said, I cannot stress enough that the Savage Soul is a kind of rule set. You can put it into whatever world you want to put it into. If you want to create a high medieval fantasy world with wizards and medieval style technology, maybe with a tinge of the Renaissance, right? You can do that. You just have to kind of adjust the way that the characters are created and how you play the game. If you want to create a setting where it's deep in space and everybody is either a human or an android, and you're either space explorers going out to distant worlds on your ship, or maybe you're avoiding the dangers and the horrors of space and the strange alien monsters that are out there in kind of a horror style setting. You can do that. If you want to create a universe where you're investigators and you're trying to uncover the truth behind things that most people don't see but are just really kind of unusual and can even drive you insane, you can do that. And my personal favorite, if you want to create a superhero universe where you have these characters that have amazing superpowers, they live in the world today, and you can and you're out there trying to save the world, or maybe you overturn it, maybe you can do that. This is all just a matter of which abilities you want each of the characters to have in the world that you and your GM set up. That's usually done through a session 0, which, by the way, you should be doing. You're doing that, right? The Savage Soul is a whole system of rules that lets players and GMs create an entire world on their own in a way that I haven't really seen done as efficiently in other games. All dice rolls made in Savage Soul are rolled with D10s, or 10-sided die. With numbers, you just add or subtract whatever values, right? It's very simple math, and when you play, you don't need to try to figure out if you're going to be rolling this type of die or this type of die. You don't need to figure out if you want to go high or low. All the values you want high values for all your rolls. And you don't need to roll extra die to determine advantage or disadvantage or anything like that. It's just a very simple addition and subtraction with math. Combat in the Savage Soul encourages the players to actually work together as a team, as a single unit, rather than have some lone player going off on their own and then getting themselves killed while the rest of the group is going to be picked off one by one. It encourages the group to form around a leader and to discuss the strategy together, just as like an official combat group would do in an actual combat situation. I think you and I would probably do something very similar if we were stuck in, let's say, a zombie apocalypse. We'd figure out who is going where, and we'd have a leader to encourage us to follow what they see is the best opportunity for us to be successful. But just keep in mind that your opponents, your enemies, are going to be doing the same thing. And so you have these, instead of one-on-one matchups, you really have entire groups facing off against each other. It's a very cooperative game and encourages a group to work together when they play. Characters in combat are able to react to different actions that their enemies make in order to help save themselves or save their teammates. For example, if you have an enemy who's running at one of your allies and you have a ranged weapon like a bow or a rifle, you can take a shot at them. You'll have a small penalty, but it may be better to hit them before they come in, before they close the distance, and save your teammate before they get cleaved with a giant axe. However, with that said, a character who takes that shot, that attacking a moving target reaction, is going to lose their action when they play. So it's a trade-off, right? Are you going to let the character, let your ally possibly take a blow and dodge it themselves? Or are you going to try to take a hit while the enemy is moving in? There might be good reasons to hold off and to let your ally try to take a blow. Maybe your ally is really tanky and they know can take it, or maybe there's a better target to hit farther away. These are the strategies that you'll have to play along with your teammates when you make decisions in Soul. And again, I haven't really seen that done in other systems like D&D. In addition, and this is probably the biggest thing that's unique about Soul, Soul doesn't have hit points. Think about real life. If you are in an ER and you see somebody being rushed in and they look like hell, you're not going to hear a nurse or an EMT scream out, "Hurry, hurry, this man only has 5 hit points out of 20. You're probably going to hear something like, "This man's in critical condition. He's severely injured." You're going to hear those things because that's what real life is like. We human beings don't have hit points. We maybe take a certain number of hits. Maybe those hits might be of a certain volume that cause us to be in different injury conditions. And that's what Soul kind of alludes to. Soul alludes to your injury condition in combat. It actually can lead to it being a little bit harsher than combat done in D&D, because D&D, you can be pretty much at death's door with only 5 hit points left out of, 100 or so, what we would consider to be critically injured, but still fight just like your character can at full health. In Soul, you can't do that. In Soul, if you're critically injured, you're feeling it, and you could go down unconscious at any point because you are so grievously injured. That's the real thing I love about Soul and Soul's combat is, yes, it can be very harsh, and it almost leads to a little bit of a spiral. Once you get an enemy injured, then they lose a little bit of their efficiency in combat. Then they get a little bit worse and they lose even more. And eventually, when they go down, it's kind of a downward spiral. But you can have that same downward spiral too, so you need to be double careful when you play the game. Soul can be brutal and harsh. There's no death saves. No, it is when you die, if you don't have a second chance or a lifeline, you are going to die and you have to be resurrected, which also comes with a lot of strange things that might happen. I've had characters who have been resurrected and they are paralyzed, so they literally can't do anything else. It's almost as if we spent the money for the resurrection and wasted it. So that's happened. But with this said, it stresses the point that combat in any system should be harsh. It should be a last resort. I've had many sessions where I've played Soul and I've said to myself, I cannot race into combat. I have to be smart about this. And if I can find a diplomatic way to try to protect myself and my friends, you bet your ass I will do that.
I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know it's a little bit different from what I usually do, and I really also gotta say, I really enjoy other TTRPGs like 5th edition D&D, which is prominent in Baldur's Gate 3, or Rogue Trader and Dark Heresy, but they seem to have something that's a little bit lacking regarding things like character design, creativity in their world design, and the brutality of combat that makes those games not quite as realistic as I find Savage Soul to be. I'm going to put more videos up that explain how Savage Soul has influenced my mindset on TTRPGs in general. And who knows, maybe you'll get to try out some of these rules when you play around your table, or, better yet, you can give Savage Soul a try yourself.
I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in learning more, please check out the Savage Soul website. It's down below. And get the rule book. It's a great rule book. It gives you a lot of details about the rules and about the lore of the main universe, while also stressing that you can put it into your universe. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. So that's going to be it for today. If you want to learn more about TTRPG content and my viewpoints on them, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, that's going to be it for today. Take care and good luck. We're all counting on you.